want to start by saying if you can sense a vibe. Are you kidding me? Wally and Scollins come in chatting it up during corrections. Is nothing sacred in this place? Was that one of the guild requests? I want to be able to talk during corrections. Well, I apologize that you had to see that. But if you don't shame them in the moment, they don't learn their lesson. I was going to open by explaining corrections is going to be a little looser. And I realized I betrayed that right off the bat. But one of the reasons corrections is going to have a different vibe now is that it is no longer Emmy nominated. For 2 years, it was Emmy nominated, and then during the strike, it was unnominated. I think is the term they use. If you don't get nominated, you just don't find out anything. If you were nominated and then you're not, they call you. And they request that you stop describing the work as Emmy nominated. But you know, the thing about that is, I feel as though burden's been lifted because I will admit that it went to my head and I did start chasing the Emmy Gold. I didn't start doing the corrections I thought were important to do. I started doing the corrections that I thought the voters would want me to do. And now I can just go back to the integrity of the work, which is what this has always been. Because I think when done right, this is unlike anything you watch on, I don't know, your phone, propped against a toaster while you're drinking coffee. So with that relief that, you know, this is no longer a show that is Emmy nominated, came enthusiasm as I jumped into the comments of our viewers today. And the first comment I read said, I was surprised he hasn't been doing these. I thought he could do corrections during the strike because the only thing the writers provide is forced laughter. I don't need writers to provide forced laughter. I got Buck. And that's not forced laughter. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm sure when he was a kid, somebody forced him to laugh. And now he can't stop. I mean, I think we're dealing with some sort of deep-seated trauma that every one of these works. Bucky, come over to your mama. I'm funny, aren't I, Bucky? Oh, Bucky, I don't know what I'd do if my baby didn't think I was funny. Bucky. Is it worth, here's a question we had. When we did our first show on Monday, was it worth doing a closer look that covered the last 5 months? Is it worth, same question. Is it worth doing a corrections and going back and correcting the last week of shows we did 5 months ago that went uncorrected? Because people won't even remember the errors from 5 months ago. It is worth it because I remember. I have a photographic memory of this show. I have basically spent 5 months eating myself up inside due to the mistakes I made that I had not addressed. So I am going to start by addressing mistakes from 5 years ago that I still remember. 5 months ago, excuse me. Here's the first one. The call with Aunt Joan said slide to answer. That means the call hadn't been answered yet. It was still an incoming call. The sun doesn't go behind the moon goes in front of the sun. The easiest way to remember that is I don't sit behind a standing shoemaker at a meeting. I sit, and then he comes and stands in front of me. Apologies, by the way, to shoemakers' neighbors. Can't imagine you had a good 5 months. Our last episode, we made a lot of fun about Tucker Carlson getting fired from Fox News. Joke's on us. Guy landed on his feet. Oh, another guy we made fun of our last show, Ron DeSantis. We did an impression of him eating pudding with 3 fingers. And Jackal asked, "Why are you so sure the three fingers are contiguous?" And I think, knowing Ron DeSantis and how weird he is, I'm pretty confident it might be like this. I don't think he's going to be president, guys. Before the break, we were talking about the Stevie Nicks song, White Winged Dove. A lot of you told me the name of the song is Edge of 17. And not to give a correction to a legend like Stevie Nicks, but just change it. Don't Baba O'Reilly your songs. Make it be the title people want it to be. You know, when you do that, that just means some at a karaoke night gets to run the computer and people go up and they're like, "I would love to do White Winged Dove." He's like, "I can't find it." I don't think it's a song. Someone said the sound Stevie Nicks makes in that song sounds more like an owl than a dove. And I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll say, "Oh, let's take a listen." And I'd play a clip from that song. And then we'd put in an actual owl's hoots over the doves. But I can't do that. The reason we didn't do that is when you use a song, due to music licensing, it can't be on YouTube. And I'm not complaining. That's the rule for everything. We put a song in corrections, it comes off YouTube. Same is true of carpool karaoke. By the way, I already regret being critical of Stevie Nicks. That is not someone you want to run afoul of. If you ever listened to the lyrics of Silver Springs, ask Lindsey Buckingham. Because if you run afoul of Stevie Nicks, you wake up in the morning, just a scarf on your pillow. Oh, people say, "What's in your drink and do you finish it?" It is a Negroni, and I do finish it. Not during corrections. I stay here the whole weekend in the dark, just slowly sipping it, and I try to finish right before Monday's Closer Look. We said Donald Trump has been indicted 3 times, which was 1 more than the Unabomber. And then I said, who, as the Una implies, just had the 1. I put that in, really liked it. Nary a laugh from the audience. And then a bunch of you said the Una in Unabomber was for his bombing targets. The UN was for universities. The A was for airlines. A Unibomber would be someone who bombs only once, like me when I told the Unabomber joke. And thanks to our Eagle Eye viewer who sent in all that Unabomber information, Connor O'Malley. We said Trump looked like a Klingon general in court and then showed a picture of Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation. He was the lieutenant, I was told by a bunch of people. That was a bad choice for a Klingon general. General Martok would have worked. I don't like the expression, "you people," because it usually implies the speaker has some pretty bad prejudices. With that said, I'd just like to say to the Star Trek fans out there, you people. Oh, he also said you could never be a general because the Starfleet uses the ranks of the Navy. Because I guess in the future, space is water. Taco Bell has had breakfast since 2014. They just added the breakfast taco. What's going on over there? Got to be stoned to work there, too? Aaron Rodgers did not, as I said yesterday, tear his ACL. He tore his Achilles. It's the last time I do my own research. I said LaFonsa Butler is the first black lesbian woman in the Senate. I was told lesbian and woman are redundant, and then I decided to say that information as flatly as possible and move on. I don't love giving corrections to my colleagues, but oftentimes they don't have a way to give them. We showed a clip of Sean Hannity, and it's about how Trump was going to be the next House Speaker, and they instead of former, they said Fromer, which I think is maybe how they, like if Trump calls up angrily and he's like, I'm not the former president, they're like, Fromer. A lot of people said that's not where their ears would be. We showed a Trump Tower and made it look like the Honeymooners. And someone said, oh my God, you should do a Honeymooners. This is like, again, not a correction, this is like a pitch. They're like, you should do a bit where Trump's like, to the moon, Mel. But like, you have to remember, like, Trump would not have any power in that relationship. If Trump was like Ralph Cramby, he'd be like, to the moon, Mel. She'd be like, I'll tell them everything. And he'd be like, look who's back from the moon. I forgot we had a P.O. box, so it was fun to come in and see some stuff. I got top 3. Someone said, sorry you didn't get nominated for an Emmy. But again, don't be sorry. It's a relief. Imagine how mad I'd be if this was Emmy nominated and Scollins and Wally are just walking in. You guys remember this all started with Lego. Somebody made a Lego me, and that's a little Emmy. I would have put it in the hand, but it doesn't fit in the hand, which I feel like might be the joke. That is a Mac the Knight with a jackal in his pocket. And I don't know if you can see this. I couldn't quite understand what they're doing here. It says there's a picture of a Pizza Hut that I guess goes on it, but it's hard to read, but it says accessories sold separately. So they made me a present and showed me a picture of another thing they made. And I guess I got to buy it. But then someone took the cake. I mean, they said, somebody made this and said, well, I'm willing to give you the patent. I mean, they wanted to split the money. Sell it at the NBC store. And it's for the Seth fans who are also Jackal fans. I mean, it's the most haunting thing I've ever seen. And you know, now, now's when I weigh something, right? Like, I laid in that if Stevie Nicks is mad at you, she leaves a scarf on your pillow, and I feel like it didn't get anything. And so, like, I've set something up, and I'm like, now do I call it back by revealing that I've run a scarf up my sleeve? Like, does that pay off at all? I think we're a little rusty. Some people forgot what time it started. But you know what? I hate to say it. Missed you guys, missed the jackals. Codependency. I've made a codependency with a bunch of jackals. It's great to be back. And you know, as I'm watching this in the monitor, one thing really, there's like one thought I'm having. This shouldn't be, I mean, see me next week.